You got suited up, you put your shoes on, you end up winning by a toe. Chiefs get the first W against the Ravens tonight, live on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, everybody. Is your live post-game with Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest, live from the stadium with us. We appreciate you. We're brought to you by Prize Picks. Easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports right now at prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. You can use that code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL, to win $50 instantly just for playing $5. You don't even have to win. Get in there at Prize Picks and run your game. The Chiefs ran their game, and they did a lot of good work. Matt Derrick, the editor of ChiefsDigest.com, our man on the beat, just got out of the locker room and is still at the stadium joining us live with Chris Clark. You see him up here over at Chiefs Corner. I'm Ryan Tracy from NFL 33, RGR Football, and Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. Thank you for making us your first listen, or maybe your first Locked On listen right now. Check out another Locked On show later, as we're going to break it all down for you. You can even get that much more on the text line, even during the game at 816-357-8781. We have to get to the things later, the minuses about what can be improved, what struggled tonight. That's coming up later in the show. A couple of missed opportunities, but there were a lot of opportunities on the pluses side coming up later. But we start, you just can't get an easy game. The Chiefs, I don't care whether it's the Super Bowl or whether it's week one, they're just not going to let you rest easy. They're going to take it down to the wire. This one was no doubt. Thank you to Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens for coming out. Clearly, they feel that the Chiefs are at the top of their game already. I don't think they understand yet. But, Matt, to pull a win like this with so many young players on the roster, so many guys contributing by literally the nail on a big toe, what does that do for this team? Have they dodged the bullet, or is there a sense of relief or a sense of, hey, we got to clean our act up?
Probably a little bit of both. There was certainly a lot of phrasing and terminology around the locker room and in the post-game press conferences about having some things to clean up from this game, and there certainly is. Even individual players to a T. We were talking about some of the things that they can clean up individually. Everybody had a little bit of, it was week one, so everybody was a little bit imperfect. Not sure that there was anybody with a truly great performance outside of maybe Xavier Worthy, maybe Chris Jones, because Chris Jones had a pretty good night too, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's week one, so there's plenty to clean up. Referees probably had some things to clean up too. Maybe we'll talk about that as well. But it wasn't like a massive sense of relief. I think that, part of it is that this team still has a great deal of confidence. They think they're the better team than the Ravens. So I think there was a little bit of this that they expected to win, and they won. But there's no doubt there's a few things to clean up out of this one.
When I look at this game, one of my biggest keys was slowing down Derrick Henry, and Kansas City held him to 40 yards on the night, 46 yards on 13 carries, 3.5 yards a carry. That is shutting down Derrick Henry. I wouldn't say that for some of the other running backs in the NFL, but that's shutting down Derrick Henry. That is a phenomenal job by the Chiefs defense to be able to get that done. Yes, they ended up giving up 122 yards to Lamar Jackson. But I will say this, and I kind of said this talking on the Locked On NFL show or Locked On Today earlier. This is the first game of the year. This is the first time these guys have played more than 30 or 40 snaps in a game. And some of them didn't even get double-digit snaps in most games in the preseason. So this is going to be something where they're going to get a little bit more condition, and I think that they'll be better down the road. But they had a lot of snaps, especially late in this game, that they struggled on, and I think that's something to look at. But they win by a toe. Likely's big toe did not come down in bounds, and but the reality about that is that if Lamar Jackson actually throws balls on the two previous plays better, it doesn't come down to that, and maybe they go to overtime at that point. So, although it looked like they were going for two.
Yeah, it's definitely, if that play had been upheld and it had been a touchdown, it certainly looked like the Ravens were going for two. They had their offense on the field. Jim Harbaugh was signaling for two, so John Harbaugh rather. So yeah, I fully expected that if that touchdown had stood, that they were absolutely going to go for two, and that would have been probably an even more dramatic finish coming down to one play.
It certainly would have been. On the plus side, they ran the ball hard. They stuck with it. There was about a 60-40 split pass to run here. I thought it was controlled by the offensive game calling. The run game was there. A little bit of Carson Steele, a lot of Isaiah Pacheco. You spread the ball around. I think arguably, yes, Xavier Worthy, bang for the buck in terms of number of touches. I feel like what we saw was a glimpse of the future, though, especially after Hollywood Brown returns, in feeding Rashee Rice underneath, making those catches across the middle, attacking where the defense has to be soft if they want to guard deep. I think this is just a preview of more to come, Matt. That was one of the things that stood out to me about the pass game offense. Looked just in its infancy, markedly better than I expected it to be in week one. How did you take it?
Yeah, I mean, there's individual things that the Chiefs did tonight that I just don't know how some teams are going to stop. And some of that is just, putting together the individual pieces that they have. Patrick Mahomes talked about it after the game, that just the mere presence of Xavier Worthy, that as the game, wore on, the Ravens were using more and more shells to defend him and try and make sure that he wasn't beating them deep. And they still had a busted coverage, and it didn't work. And Mahomes said, hey, that's going to happen early in the season. Defenses are going to break down, and you have to take advantage of it when they do. But then you look at Rashee. I don't know how an undersized defensive back even is going to defend Rashee Rice out of the slot. I mean, if you're another team, you're going to have to find the guy that's 6'2" to put him on, because I think that is just going to be there all day long. For Rashee. I mean, it's just that I think he's too big and too fast to cover in that spot unless that you've got some size and an ability to play with him. You definitely can't let him get free off the line of scrimmage. And the same is true with Worthy. I mean, that touchdown throw was a great example of that. I mean, you get him off the line and you don't have any help behind, he's going to beat you. I mean, that's exactly what Tyreek used to do to people. So I think that there were certainly some individual pieces out of this game that you can say, okay, the Chiefs can build off of this. And there's a few things that, once they do get Hollywood back, I think you're going to say, it's going to be even better. I mean, there's a lot of reason to come out of this game, especially when you think about putting up 27 points on one of the three best defenses in the NFL last year. I mean, if you're putting 27 points up on the Ravens, what are you going to do against some weaker defenses?
Well, and we're going to talk about some missed opportunities here in just a minute when we get to the next segment, but I want to say really quick, the thing that stood out to me, and I don't have final snap counts, so I can't give you the final tally, but I think I saw shortly after the first quarter and maybe into the second quarter, Rashee Rice had 17 snaps. Xavier Worthy had 15. The reason I bring that up is because if you go back and watch last year, Rashee Rice wasn't getting those kinds of snaps, even in a game where they didn't have Travis Kelce. He did get snaps, but he didn't get anywhere near what Worthy got. Worthy is going to be a big part of this offense, and he is ready for it. That's what you saw tonight, and that is what is most exciting to me. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited about bringing back Hollywood Brown as well. That's going to be phenomenal. But Worthy is a bona fide starter on this team right now, and he is showing that he has the ability to play multiple snaps for the Chiefs. And, yeah, he only got 3 touches, but, man, he made him pay when he got the ball in his hands.
Yeah, and the thing with, all three of those guys, once Hollywood does come back, is that they're playing 3 different positions. So the presence isn't going to affect the workload of somebody else. Yep. Really, the only thing that's going to affect those 3 individual players' workloads is how much do you want other players to rotate through in their positions, or how much of a break do you want to give them? How much do you want McCole Hardman to play? How much do you want Justin Watson? How much do you want to get Juju on the field? And so, and that to me, I mean, I think that this is the first time in a long time that the Chiefs may have just 3 starting wide receivers that they prefer at each of those 3 individual spots. So, they don't have to do the rotation as much as they've done in the past. I don't think that they will. I mean, it's not that you're not going to see Xavier sometimes playing the X. I mean, I think he's going to be in the Z spot a lot. Doesn't mean you're not going to see him in the slot sometimes. But you see what Rashee did in the slot tonight? I mean, there's a reason why he is going to be in that spot a lot this year.
It makes perfect sense. Those are some opportunities they can capitalize on. There are a few, despite what we saw, that they still have opportunities in galore that they didn't take advantage of. What are they, and how can they capitalize? Coming up next. When you're hiring for a small business, you want to find the quality professionals with the right fit for the right role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. It has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team. I'm always looking at LinkedIn. It isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you find professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively looking or searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. It goes down the easiest way to post your job for free is on linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Folks, the new and improved Locked On NFL is now twice a day with our guys, Tyler Rowland, my old partner on that show, and Tony Wiggins, who are going to break it down for you in barbershop style. Twice a day, every day on Locked On NFL. Check that out. Matt, we will have some segments over there as well, but it appears to me this was clearly every game has flaws, but there are a lot of missed opportunities in my point. Little plays that could have gone for big stretches. The one that stands out the most to me as a missed opportunity was likely that ball just a hair's breadth out of Samaje Perine's grasp that could have gone for a long, long gainer, if not a score. Is that the one that they want back the most?
Well, that one, and I think you had a similar throw to Isaiah Pacheco that would have gone for a touchdown that I think was a drive that ended up in a field goal. So, yeah, I mean, there was a couple of those plays, and Andy Reid would say they were just off by an inch. Conversely, I look at the other side of the ball, and I'm like, gosh, they got gashed on a bunch of third downs that were not off by an inch. Those were just absolute wide open guys releasing out, and I'm more worried about those than I would be about Lamar yards, because those Lamar yards tonight, the only other guy in the league that's going to get those out of you is Josh Allen. I mean, this wasn't even designed runs from Lamar Jackson. This was Lamar Jackson running for his life. And the great thing is that you got a lot of, pressure on him from the defensive line, but those are things that you're going to absolutely have to clean up. And so, I see it on both sides, but to your point on the offensive side specifically, there's a reason why the ground game struggled today. There's elements of the run game blocking that was off tonight. You can't have 17 rushes for 48 yards. I mean, and there was definitely, at least early on in the game, that you mentioned, Ryan, the balance got there at the end, but they really got there because, they ran the ball a lot in the fourth quarter trying to extend the game and run the clock down. But, you can't go for under 3 yards of carry in the run game. You got to get better than that.
Ryan, I'm really surprised you're not just jumping in there and talking about that. But I will say the other one that really stood out to me is I was surprised Juju got as many snaps as he did, and that almost touchdown catch I think also was haunting them a little bit. I'm not sure if that was on the same drive that Pacheco missed, but should have had a TD possibly there, or at least a first down. And Travis Kelce, also somebody that's usually sure-handed, had a drop on a second down that I think led to a field goal as well. So definitely multiple missed opportunities. I think they at least let maybe 10 points on the field, if not more. And I think that's a huge storyline going into this, because one of the things the Ravens players seem to be talking a lot about is that they didn't play their best game. Kansas City didn't play their best game, and they didn't have their full complement of weapons on offense. So, good luck with that in the playoffs, because when you get the full complement and you get a full season of these guys working together, and like you said, Samaje Perine, that play misses by maybe 6 inches to a foot. If that ball's just a little bit different, that's probably a touchdown. That was a wide open play.
And that's a play that probably is going to come with time, because, Mahomes, it's probably the first time he's ever made that throw to Samaje Perine. So
exactly,
you're going to have to get those things down timing wise. And there was a couple of times tonight. I mean, Mahomes wasn't perfect tonight. He had a couple of those throws that he definitely hurried. That throw and the one to Pacheco just had a little bit too much mustard on him. He tried to get the ball I think there a little bit too quickly. He made a mistake on the interception. He mentioned after the game to me that should have made the throw to Travis. Instead, he got greedy, was trying to get it to Rashee. Defender Roquan Smith made a great play on the ball, but because the ball didn't come out the way Mahomes wanted to. But had he thrown it a little earlier to Kelce, probably get a big game there. So, yeah, everybody had a little bit of piece of, this being as close of a game, because I think the Chiefs could have run away with this game, especially in the first half, had they just taken advantage of a couple of moments.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where I was seeing it too. And I'm not here to run down the offensive line. They have to clean that up. And that's why I didn't jump in there about the running game. Yes, it will improve. I do think Carson Steele earned himself a few extra carries for his deftness in the backfield when he is under attack, but that will come. I agree with you completely though, Matt. That was my big takeaway is there were a lot of flaws in this ball game, and it still shouldn't have been as close as it was. So I do think that this is something that should build confidence in where they're at. And I do think the well-roundedness of this will allow for Juju to come up to speed, Pirine to come up to speed, Mahomes to settle a little bit. I think this was all very, very early, and that's even without Hollywood's return. This might be a 30-point per game season again, Matt. Can you see that from here?
I mean, if you're putting up 27 points on the Ravens, yes. I mean, we don't know what this defense is going to be. Maybe this defense is going to be great from here on out. Maybe we'll look at this later and see the Ravens. This was their worst performance of the season. I don't know. We'll see what they've got in them this year. But it was a very strong opening drive. That I think was very encouraging to be able to respond to the way that this offense did, to come out and go down the field the way that they did. But you get a drive that starts inside the red zone. You got to get that a touchdown every single time. You can't settle for field goals. I'm enough old school football guy that I don't have a problem with Andy Reid kicking on 4th and 5 from the 40. And I think I can back that up in this case, it working out, because if you go for it there and you don't get it and you give the ball to the Ravens at the 40, well, now they've got a 20-yard advantage of going downfield. If they score their touchdown, maybe they score a minute faster. They got a minute more now at the end of the game. So, it doesn't mean it's going to play out that way, but, there's a method to Andy Reid's madness. And it certainly worked out from the night. And, talk about, I will say, good moments. That the punt that Matt Araiza had at the end, Andy Reid singled it out as a big moment. And that was a great punt. Put the Ravens back as far as you could. That was as far as, burying them for that last drive. And, once again, that punt did its job, because you don't drive them back that far. Maybe the Ravens do get into the end zone.
Well, and you talk about that punt, go a couple of punts before that, or maybe the punt before that, Joshua Williams had a chance to down it, didn't know where he was on the field, stepped in the end zone line. That is exactly what, we used to talk about Marcus Kemp, practicing that type of play. That's something that Williams will have to work on. Special teams, I thought, played really well. And somebody in the chat actually asked, why didn't they kick the field goal 58 yards? I believe I saw you before the game say that Butker made one from 63. Was it that direction or was it the other direction? Because
that's the really tricky thing about this one, because that warm-up kick that Harrison Butker had was just before the storm came in. So it was starting to sprinkle a little bit and starting to rain a little bit when Butker was finishing his warm-ups. It was 90 degrees and just a little bit of rain at that time. When Butker would have been kicking that 58-yard field goal later in the game, I mean, field conditions had deteriorated quite a bit because of the rain.
And that's the big key I was going for.
That's a factor. But also, it was about 25 degrees cooler. It was down into the 60s because that storm brought such a change in temperatures, and the wind was completely gone. So maybe that would have been an advantage, depending on how the wind was blowing earlier in the game. But the wind died completely after the storm. It was much cooler, and the ball was not going to carry as far with 25-degree temperature drop. It wasn't going to be carrying as far as it was, I think, earlier for warm-up. So you couldn't even bank on that. If you're Harrison Butker, you can't say, okay, well, I made this kick before pregame, because it was completely different field conditions.
Yeah, and and when you talk field conditions, you're also talking about footing, and that is extremely important on that play, especially considering if you miss it, you're giving them an extra 7 yards because you're snapping it and they get the ball where the kick goes. So that would have been huge as well, and they were up 10 at that point. So it made a lot of sense to me to kick the punt, or to punt it as opposed to kicking a field goal. Sorry, I'm sure I interrupted, Ryan.
Yeah, you're not wrong though. You can't take chances, and you have to have the basic building blocks of your game plan. They missed on a couple of those. So what has to be improved? What are the takeaways that they have to go back to the film and start working on? The pass rush has to improve. That's coming up next. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, PrizePicks, you just bet you against the numbers. Super simple. All you have to do is go more or less on 2 to 6 players of your choosing in a projection and watch the winnings roll in. Right now, they're giving you a deal. Caleb Williams, 1 yard. We've seen this deal for Patrick Mahomes before. Every week in September, that's right. You only need 1 yard to get a win right there. 4 weeks for free W's is what you're looking for over on PrizePicks. I really love that one. I love the over-under on Patrick Mahomes because it's about targets versus yards, and you can always get something that's Chiefs-related as well. So check it out. Download the PrizePicks apps right now. Use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. I'm going to run your game right over to Chiefs Digest, either chiefsdigest.com or Chiefs Digest here on YouTube. Then you can get to Chiefs Corner and check out everything Chris is writing. Come over to RGR Football and then check out NFL 33. We got it all for you. Make sure that your next listen is also another Locked On show. We appreciate that. Maybe go listen to Ravens. Enjoy yourself for a minute. I think it should be fun. Now, you got to take the building blocks away, right? Everything is a learning experience. And the thing that stands out to me is there's a lot of sorta out there in the pass rush. Kudos to Chris Jones getting Lamar on the ground. That's not what I'm looking for against Lamar. The key stat to me, Matt, it comes down to 1 QB hit from George Karlaftis, which is less than the number of PBUs that Leo Chanel pulled off in 2. That's an issue for me. Too many guys staying engaged too long, not able to shed and actually attack him in a way that kept him controlled. Kudos to Chanel and some of the linebackers and second-level players for keeping him in front of him, although he went off for 122. I think that pass rush is the #1 thing that they have to go back to the well starting Monday and get after it. What do you see?
Yeah, I think I might disagree. I'm coming from a different direction, and it doesn't mean you're not right. I mean, maybe we're both right. Maybe we're both wrong. I don't know. But there was a couple of things that I thought was curious, and one was that, usually with Steve Spagnuolo, one of the things that they like to do and they believe in is you keep Lamar in the pocket. You don't let him escape. You don't let him beat you. And they did okay with that at times, but I was absolutely perplexed at some of the lanes that he had and some of the escapes. There was definitely no discipline, Ryan. And that's, I think, the big key is that, you have to be disciplined, especially on the edges with Lamar Jackson. And I definitely don't think that they were disciplined across the board with the front four. Hey, Steve Spagnuolo's forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. And he still knows more about football than I'll ever know. But I was a little just stunned that, how much we were seeing Leo Chanel in a spy situation, especially by the end of the game. He wasn't spying anymore. In that last drive, he was going after the passer. I mean, they had to play him 3 down linemen and having Leo. And I mean, we've talked about it before. I would love to see Leo more in that situation, playing on the ball, going after the quarterback, than trying to leave him as a spy in the middle of the field. And the one player we did not see all night on the field on defense was Jaden Hicks. And maybe this was, outside of Kingsley Suamataia and Xavier Worthy, Chiefs felt like they kind of protected their rookies a little bit tonight. And Hicks seems to be the one that was really the most protected. And maybe they didn't want to get him out there and have him in a situation where, he's one-on-one with Lamar Jackson and it doesn't go well for him. I don't know. Maybe they trusted Leo more. Maybe that specific game plan that was really suited for that. I don't know, but I was really surprised as much as we saw Jaden Hicks really thrive in the preseason and training camp, and then to not play in a game like this where I think that he could have helped to neutralize Lamar, especially once he got on a roll, that really surprised me. So I'm curious about some of the decisions that, were made from a scheme and a personnel standpoint. They won the game, so you can't quibble with it too much, but to your point, Ryan, I mean, 1 quarterback hit, 1 sack. You want more production from that, and you certainly, you're not going to win most of the time if you let Lamar go off for 122 yards. I mean, they benefited from a little bit because Lamar was getting yards back a lot of times, but and it wasn't designed yards. I still think that's what really gets you in trouble with Lamar is when they're running the ball effectively with him by design. They did not. The Chiefs were able to stop them running the football by design. And that I do think is at least a good note for going forward. But you're right. I mean, the pass rush was messy and inconsistent tonight.
Pass rush struggled. I was extremely surprised by seeing Chanel being the guy that they are going to have spy Lamar Jackson. I didn't feel like that was a great fit. But Leo played a great game for the most part. I don't want to take anything away from him. I thought he played very well and showed a lot more than I was expecting him to based on his first 2 seasons here. But you look at this defense, and you're right. I mean, they have to do something more for Lamar Jackson to slow that down. Was it just me, or did it look like they kind of changed their corner group a little bit at the end of the game? Because I didn't see Josh Williams playing a ton, and then all of a sudden he's in there and McDuffie's inside. I don't remember that early in the game. Am I misremembering that? Am I not remembering that correctly?
I mean, I thought we might see a lot more of it than we did, and you're right. I mean, I don't think that we saw as much dime, in the early in the game, especially in the first half. And I thought there was a chance the Chiefs might go to that a lot more because they had been showing that look a lot the last couple of weeks in preparation for the Ravens, and so it definitely looked like that they were experimenting with some schemes as far as having exactly that, which is Josh Williams and Jalen Watson on the outside and putting McDuffie back in the slot. And even then, still having Chamari Connor in there, and that's what they did at the end. I mean, it was 3 corners, 3 safeties. It was like a 3-2-6 look that they were doing, except then Leo was coming up to the line of scrimmage. And then at that point, Nick Bolton was the spy. So, I mean, there were some interesting decisions. But I will say, after Leo got dinged up and came out and Drew Tranquil came in for him on the last few snaps, few of those snaps, Drew Tranquil was now playing on ball, but he was strictly spying Lamar. And that actually worked on a couple of plays and might have been saving the game, those couple of snaps right there.
I think that makes all the difference in the world. Just a couple of plays can turn it around. So, Matt, as our perennial guest, you get to go first. Who earned that game ball by making a couple of those detailed plays?
I mean, I'm only going to pat myself on the back here once all season, but I'm going to do it right here because I was pretty proud of this one. I said a couple of times this week that, hey, if the Chiefs win this game, it might be because of Xavier Worthy's speed, and they only might need it on 1 or 2 plays. They got his speed on 2 plays, and those were the 2 decisive plays of the game. It's the reason why they won this game. So Xavier Worthy, have yourself a day. The big one. He and Kareem Hunt, the only players in Chiefs history with 2 or more touchdowns in their first NFL game. I think I voted the 47th rookie in NFL history, at least in the Super Bowl era, to have multiple touchdowns in first NFL game. Xavier Worthy, you get the game ball.
Who you got, Ryan?
I'm going to stay on the offensive side. I know that's kind of strange for me, but I was really impressed with after what has been maybe the longest offseason for any player in recent memory. Rashee Rice did everything asked of him and then some. He looked more explosive. He looked more knowledgeable in where he was supposed to be. He was available to his quarterback. He did everything that I think you can ask, and still he has room to improve. So Rashee gets my game ball tonight.
Man, this isn't who I'm going to give my game ball to, but I think we're being remiss if we're not going to mention that FAU had some really heads-up plays. Besides just the fumble recovery, his ability to cover that screen really showed a lot more growth from him than I thought I would be seeing in this game. Chris Jones, I think, has to get a game ball in this game. The sack, the strip fumble, he's just too good. The one thing I will say about him is I didn't like how much they had him lining up against Stanley. I thought that with who else they had on the line, when I'm talking about the Ravens, you would have tried to attacking those guys with Chris Jones a little bit more, and maybe use Karlaftis or Dana or somebody else over Stanley because he's probably going to be their best pass blocker.
So who does get your game ball?
Chris Jones. Sorry, I thought I said that.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to make it perfectly clear. Chris took defense, folks. I want it on the record.
Well, you took my guy. I was going to say Rashee Rice. I had no idea you were actually going to take an offensive player because you never do.
That's what.
And shout out to Trey McDuffie. I thought he played pretty well, and he stuck his head in there several times and made some big plays, especially on 4th down.
And you know who else delivered tonight, folks? His name is Matt Derrick. Matt, thanks for hitting us here. I know it's late, and I know you're still at the stadium, but there's nothing like getting the word right from you. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Although I don't have any, toe puns for you, so I got nothing for you to leave with.
Well, your Chiefs got a win over the Ravens off Baltimore, so have a great night, folks. We'll be back with you, and get ready for the Bengals coming up next. Enjoy this one, and we'll catch you next time.